Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. This is episode 94. A lot of weeks we've done this, Paul.
I
feel I've gotten
to know you. It must be
you.
really easy because it doesn't seem like it's been 90.
No, it doesn't. I'm joined by Paul Thurrott from winsupersite.com. How you doing, Paul?
Apparently I need a headache. I mean a haircut, sorry. Jeez.
I'm hearing ticking. You're doing your hair. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing every week.
Right before we got
Actually, Paul's sporting my old hairstyle of the messy, spiky look.
Yeah.
Today.
I don't use gel though.
You know, you should do a show on hair stuff, just hair products and things like that. It'll be great.
Yikes! It would be really short. I don't know a lot about that.
Watch Paul do his hair for 45 minutes.
I know we have a lot of plastic, cylindrical, shampoo-y looking things in the bathroom, but most of them don't apply to me. So
last week, Paul and I did I kind of had the product. I think you got it like an hour after we did the show, but you got the Kindle Fire.
Yep.
And I was thinking about doing a recap to start the show of what we think of the Kindle Fire after having it for a little over a week. Well, about a week. Exactly a week, actually. I have mine here, and Paul wrote a great review of it on his website at winsupersite.com.
I also have mine here.
You do have yours there.
Yeah. It never leaves my side. Never.
It's always there. So what do you think of it before I show what I've done with mine?
I have a complex kind of relationship with this thing. I mean, I like it for what it is. I sort of recognize it for what it is. I don't think it's the right thing for me. I have spent maybe now almost 2 years probably looking for something that was very thin and light, and I could bring it around with me, and I could watch movies on a plane or in a hotel room when I travel, because I travel a lot. And I have to say, this device is not good for that for many, many reasons. But the big one is that it's more geared toward being online with the Wi-Fi connection and connecting to Amazon services. If you don't mind that or want to do that, this device is perfect. It's great. But if you want to use it on a plane when you might be offline, typically, at least for me, I don't think it would work well in that kind of situation. And there's weird stuff too. You know, even though it doesn't have a lot of storage, I copied a video file to the device today. Okay. And then I went to the video experience, whatever they call it, videos. And there's, you can play from the cloud or play from the device. And I go to the device and it's not showing up. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. And, I went and looked at it in Explorer and it was still there. It was in the right place. You have to copy the right folder. And I thought, okay, well, maybe, a lot of my video files have that iTunes specific 3-letter extension, I think it's M4V, and maybe it doesn't recognize that. So I renamed it to MP4. Nope. So then I started researching it. Why is this not working? And, is it possible? Does this thing not work with H.264 files? How crazy would that be? Turns out it works fine on this device. Actually, it works terribly, but it works. You have to use a different app. There's an app called Gallery. I don't know how you would ever find that out.
There's somewhere. Yeah, there is actually. I'm looking at the Gallery app right now.
How stupid is that? And if you were to actually load a video file on your device and look at it in Gallery, it has the lousiest user interface I've ever seen. You're like, all right, well, whatever. At least it plays. But then it plays not full screen, and there's no way to, like on an iPad or whatever, you can double tap it and it will kind of resize to fit the screen. There's nothing like that.
I wonder why, like Android does it pretty deep. I mean, they don't do it great, but they have a system to their madness, and they do certain things that are pretty decent. And I think, they don't have a great player, but you can view video properly.
You can view video. I think I would
properly.
I would put the period at the end of the sentence right there. But
why? I don't understand why they would actually take a something that's kind of working, but it's still not perfect, and totally mess it up.
Yeah. So I'm a technical person. I like things to be a certain way. I have to kind of step outside the box here and remember that this thing is aimed at normal consumers. They're not going to be doing things like that. Nobody rips DVDs like I do. Nobody puts them in these specific formats and, yada, yada, yada. So I'm not going to hold it against the device from a review standpoint. I'm just saying for me personally, that doesn't meet my needs. And like I said last week, 8 gigs of storage is lousy. It's just lousy. I actually ordered today and then stopped the order, but I ordered a Samsung Galaxy Tab 7 Plus, I think it's called. It's kind of the the Samsung version of this. It comes with 16 gigs of storage. It comes with a micro SD slot, so you could plug in another 32. And I'm thinking, there, and it has the same battery life, 7+ hours. And I thought, well, here's a device I could use. The thing is, the reason I canceled the order, first of all, I'm not traveling between now and the end of the year.
Oh, you can't? You're not getting it?
I canceled it.
Okay.
I might, because here's the thing. Ice cream sandwich is coming down the pike. I think I need to take a look at that. I'm going to wait for that. And whether that happens on a phone or a tablet or both, we'll see. But I don't think it makes sense for me to buy an Android tablet right now. So I'm going to wait. But it was $400. So,
yeah,
that's the difference. You could buy 2 Kindles, for the same price. So
see, I don't hate it. I don't hate the device at all. And I think the device is pretty decent for a first gen device.
Yeah. But it's not cheap, right?
It's not. No, it doesn't feel cheap at all.
People always say, "Oh, it's cheap." You get what you pay for. No. It's actually nice.
Yeah, no, it's made really well. The feel is pretty good.
Yeah.
The only issue I have, I hate the stupid Kindle look. Because that carousel thing drives me crazy because it doesn't work. The carousel does not work.
Well, it's funny. The problem is it's too fast.
Yeah, it's way too fast.
Right?
Yeah.
People talk about this. It has a performance issue, and you're like, yeah, it does. The thing is too damn fast. It's so smooth. You can touch the thing, and 80 items go flying by in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and it seems like they tried to speed it up.
Yep, and they did.
And they did. They just accelerated the stupid thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna show what I've done with mine. Let me go to camera.
I can't. This is an atrocity unto nature.
So I took it all off. So this is just bare. It looks like stock Android.
So do you know? Then you must be able to go in and look. What is it? So what version of Android are we looking at?
Well, I believe it's 2.3.
So
it's Android 2.3.
That's relatively new.
It's not gingerbread. It's gingerbread.
1.6. I mean, it's
it's running gingerbread, reasonable. But it's running the last possible source code that was released. Because they didn't release the Honeycomb source code for some time. I don't even know. I think they just released it recently.
Is Honeycomb 3.0? Is that the...
Honeycomb is 3, yeah.
And then Ice Cream is 4?
Ice Cream is 4, but Ice Cream Sandwich got released immediately. It's out already, the source code.
But that one is phone only, isn't it?
No, phone and tablet.
That's curious.
So they've kind of merged the two into one, and now it's phone and tablet.
But there are no Ice Cream Sandwich devices yet, right? Is that...
I've seen some that are coming out within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, like that Nexus phone.
The Nexus is the first one and got released in the UK. And this was a strange release. They released it in the UK. It's coming out in Canada on the 8th. But we don't have a date yet for us.
I wonder if it's going to be a CES January thing for us for some reason.
It looks nice.
Imagine. I spent a bunch of time on their site looking at it.
But Paul, don't you think they would release this thing prior to Christmas?
Yep, I do.
But do you remember last year Google? There were a lot of rumors coming out that Google was going to release their tablet, their personal tablet, before Christmas, and it never came.
I think this Honeycomb thing and the weirdness around not releasing the source code and wanting to get it right and all that stuff changed a bunch of their plans. I think that's what that is. And I'm sure we'll see a Nexus tablet of some kind. I wouldn't surprise me. Well, it seems like Samsung is the one making the best tablets right now on that side of the fence.
Well, they're making like a tablet every 3 weeks. There's a new tablet coming out from them.
Yeah. And they're in like ridiculous screen sizes, like all kinds of sizes. 7, 9, 10, 11. They just kind of keep coming. I don't know, but.
So it's actually anybody could do this, and I showed it on Tech News Weekly last week. What I did was I didn't root it. If you go into the App Store, there's something called, and I'll tell you, it's called Go Launcher EX. And
let me ask you one question before you continue. Can you get it back?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could actually, I haven't set it on default yet, so you could see it popping up here.
So you run it as an app almost.
I run it almost as an app, but I can set it as default, and I could totally eliminate this pop-up from coming up. The issue is you have to go into settings, then it's a whole instruction thing. You got to go to settings, then go back to default, everything, and it just wipes it out. Or if you delete it, it'll just go back to normal.
Is this in Amazon store, or do you have to go to Google's?
No, really? Amazon, yeah.
Really?
But you could also install the Google apps on this device. There's a way you could, if you download it.
I don't know if you noticed, but there's a switch in the options where you can turn off only except from the one app store. So I guess technically you could sort of get around that before, I think. I didn't try it, but I don't know.
I think what you do, you put third-party apps, you enable third-party apps, and then you download the app on your SD card on an Android device. Then take that, move it over to the computer, connect the Kindle to the computer, and transfer it over.
Oh, see, everything you just described is crazy.
I know. And
this is what's wrong with Android in a nutshell. You know, remember the old days you'd boot a computer and you'd like hand code that, wasn't an INI file, but whatever the heck it was, that boot file, and you would do different things like load RAM in different ways and stuff. This is like, Android is the Wild West. It's so...
Well, it's going to be the Wild West for a while, and I'm concerned that it's not going to stop here, because now that we've seen the success... I mean, it is a success, the device. Yeah. I think it's most probably the most successful Android tablet on the market, with the amount of hype and the dedication that has gone into it.
Right.
I know the Galaxy Tabs are successful, but not to this level and with this pricing.
No, not at all.
You're going to see more manufacturers doing this, and it's really going to spread everything out there more than it is currently. I think that's the problem here. But it's all right. I mean, it's still no iPad.
No, they're different things. I mean, and I think that was the kind of conclusion I came to. You know, that the interesting thing is that for $200, you know, for a lot of people, this is, you know, arguably what they want. I mean, I think there's some confusion on the iPad side where Apple is trying to kind of have it both ways. You know, it's this media tablet kind of thing. But, you know, they also have like PC aspirations. You know, they want you to be able to edit documents and hook up a keyboard and make it into sort of a computer. Mm-hmm. And Amazon has no desire, at least yet, you know, to do that kind of thing. And I think that that's kind of truer to this form factor, you know, that this thing is designed for entertainment. It's just, you're supposed to relax with it. You know, you're not going to do work on this thing. Although, I guess you could, you know, look at documents with documents to go or notes or something. You know, they have stuff like that. But by and large, it's apps and games and, you know, media. It's fun. It's like fun stuff.
My wife likes it. I mean, it prevents her from grabbing the iPad, so that works for me.
Anything that prevents anyone from grabbing an iPad is good in my book. But
she's not taking my iPad anymore, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. I could go in and enjoy my device. Actually, talking about the iPad, I don't know, did you hear, and this is not in the notes either, but did you hear what Google did with their Google app on the iPad?
No, I did not.
It's actually pretty cool. They've kind of hidden Chrome in there. And
well, now that we know it's over, so that's funny.
Actually, I'm going to show you this. So here is a new Google app, right?
Yep.
And you could do voice search, applications history in goggles. It's all in here. So when you go to applications, this is what it looks like. This is kind of Chrome OS.
It is very much. Yeah. Well, it's the UI, right? I mean, this is the equivalent of what Microsoft's doing with that Metro UI on the Xbox or whatever. You know, they're kind of, it's not necessarily the same thing, but it looks and works the same way, and it gets people used to doing things a certain way.
I'm wondering if they're going to pull this thing, because it's a one source hub for everything. I mean, you have Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Google, Google Plus, YouTube. Everything is there.
You know, same rendering engine, Safari and Google or Chrome. You know, they're basically the same.
So I found this very interesting, and it's actually a really well done app, but it's way too spread out, though. I mean, this is all. I find it amazing that they won't allow the Gmail app or the Google app in the Amazon store, but they were dying to get into the iPad, the iOS store, and Apple allowed them.
I'm interested that you just said that. I noticed there's a third-party app, and it's called something like GooCal or GooCalendar, and you actually pay for it, but it allows you to get Google Calendar in an app on the Kindle Fire. And I thought to myself, you know, that's kind of weird. Like, why wouldn't you just want the Google stuff? Like, why wouldn't Google just have an app? You know, like, why?
But
so you're saying they will not allow a Gmail app, but a third-party app.
But that's what they were doing. But here was the thing. Google hates it when that is done on iOS. And it was being done because there was no Google Voice app for a while. And there was something called GV Connect that I was using for my Google Voice stuff on the iPad and iOS.
Yeah.
And I always use that app.
Yep.
And Google came out and said, it's a shame that third parties are allowed to develop for our products, but we cannot develop for our own product and get approved. But you're doing the same thing on an Android tablet, which is your platform. It's so backwards.
There's all these assumptions out there about what the relationship is between Amazon and Google, if any, right? The big assumption is that there is none. That Amazon took this because they don't want anything to do with Google, don't want to, give anything back to Android, just want to go do their own thing. But Google or Amazon is going to end up being one of the best partners that Google ever had, and I think those two companies, if they're not talking, should be talking. And we should see native Google apps on this thing. How awesome would it be if Google targeted the Kindle Fire specifically, and there were 7-inch versions of those great,
Sure.
all the great apps, whatever, Gmail, Calendar, Docs, all that stuff. I hope they do that. I hope that happens. I
don't know. I hope they do too, but who knows? I want to get off of some of this tablet stuff, and I do want to go into something.
I know. I'm immersed in it. I feel like I'm floating in tablets all of a sudden.
But isn't that's all the news is right now? It's tablets and phones. If you look at any of these tech sites, and I'm talking about like something like CNET and ZDNet. That's all it is. It's tablets and phones and tablets and phones, and that's what computing has become.
Yeah, let me throw a thought by you. I have this. Now this is a big tablet. This is even bigger than an iPad. But this is that Microsoft prototype Samsung. Actually, I think Samsung makes it. Yeah, tablet for Windows 8, right? And there's something interesting that you get when you get a Windows 8 tablet, even though they're not out yet, right? So whenever these things ship, aside from the obvious stuff like it's a PC, and it runs all those apps. Mm-hmm. iPads are designed largely to consume Apple services like iTunes Store and the apps and all that stuff. And the Amazon thing is obviously designed to consume all the Amazon services. But, this one does both, right? It won't do the apps. I mean, the apps are going to have to come from, the Microsoft Store. But as far as the content, you could put iTunes on here. You could put the Amazon Unboxed player on here. And this is, the one place where you could actually play all of that content, Audible, etc., all in one place. It's the only one, and that makes it kind of interesting in and of itself, assuming that the apps picture is decent, And by the way, this thing has a micro USB.
Which nobody else does.
Yeah, you can actually put some content on there too.
Yeah, it's becoming I'm just curious to see how this is going to turn out. All of this. Xbox 360 Fall 2011 dashboard is coming December 6th.
Yep, finally.
Just in time for the holidays.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I was wondering, what's the status of the cable provider partnership? Are they coming together, or is it going to be like, hey, here's another update in 6 months?
So I can't actually answer that question, I guess is the easiest way to say it.
Okay.
I think it's going to vary depending on where you are. I think there are some partners. These are not cable companies, but there are some partners that will be available regardless of where you are. And some that will be location specific. So, for example, I know that Comcast and the BBC are partners. So Comcast, I would presume, would be available if you were a Comcast customer. BBC, maybe just the UK, maybe everywhere. Okay. I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff I just don't know, but.
Because that's the most interesting part of this. I know they're going for this UI that's kind of uniformed amongst all their platforms, but other than that, I mean, the whole idea that I don't need to have my cable box in the same room as my Xbox and I could watch. Content.
Yeah.
But again, we haven't really heard much about it.
You have to wait and see.
Yeah, and that's well, I guess you can't say even if you have it. So. That's a stupid question. Andrew erased that question. Andrew, don't ask that.
I can't talk about it, so that should tell you.
Okay. Yeah. I am excited about the update though. It's a really nice UI.
Yep.
It's a beautiful UI from what we've seen. Very Windows Phone-ish.
Part of me is starting to wonder though. I like it, so I do like it. I think it looks nice on widescreen displays, especially this kind of horizontal navigation thing, and you can flip through them, and I think it's going to work well and all that stuff. On the other hand, it's very clear that this style of user interface is going to date everything that they make to this age. You know, that 2011, 12, 13, whatever, however long it lasts. This will be the age of boxy boxes, you know, that are like lined up in a grid. This is the look, you know, so
yeah, because
we'll see
everybody's
if it stands
doing
the test of time. But
this is their third update, right, to the dashboard.
Oh, no, they've had many.
I mean, I'm talking about major overhauls from the original to now. I know they've done tweaks, but I'm thinking third
I'm not
major.
even sure I would call this one even a major update, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, so, right, there was the original UI was that Blade UI.
Yeah.
They went to a UI briefly that there were actually boxes, but they would kind of go off into the distance. You would actually flip through them. It was sort of a carousel, to be honest. And they flattened that out, and the flat version of that is what we have now. And then this next one is the Metro style UI. But I mean, honestly, this UI is almost an evolution of the last one. So it's more of a layout thing. I don't think the underpinnings are changing all that much. But
if I was the president of technology, I would totally eliminate anything that has to do with carousel UIs.
Well, I don't know if you saw this in my review, but the thing I hate the carousel too. I hate it. It's weird because you flick, you kind of go left, right, left, right, left, right. And then below it, there's a section called favorites, and you can pin things to this favorites area. And that works like a bookshelf, but the scrolling is up and down, not left, right. So on the top half of the screen, you're going left, right, left, right. And then when you go down to the bottom, you have to go up, down, down. It's just bad UI. It's inconsistent. It's unclear to me why they have to be different, I don't like it either. Yeah, I don't get it.
Google lowers the prices on the Chromebooks. This is, first of all, Google sent me an email saying that they are going to send me a Chromebook.
Nice.
They were going to send a Chromebook to me, and my wife has a company, and they are in education. And they were going to send them like 4 Chromebooks.
Okay.
And this was like when you remember the initial launch, like if you're an educator or if you're a developer, here you go. So we got this email, and she signed up. So she's like, you know what? We could definitely use this in what we're doing. And we never got it.
Well, you probably don't want it.
I probably don't want it. But, I mean, they were going to give it to us. So, because we actually, one of our developers, I ordered it for him. I really didn't really care for it.
Yeah.
So, but when the pricing came out, this thing is overpriced. I mean, it's $349 and $429, $349 without the Wi-Fi, and I guess the Samsung is the one that you kind of want, right? It's the thinner one.
Yeah.
So they were both about the same, $429 and $499 and $349 and whatever.
Right.
This is not competitive pricing, and the way that they presented this is look how competitive this is, and if you're in the corporate environment, you could just constantly update these. It's all in one. The support is there. You don't have to pay up front. You just keep paying, and then we give you a new one or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the pricing. I'm like, who's going to pay $500 almost? Add the tax. Let's say $500 for this stupid thing. Who's going to pay that? And why would you want it for $500?
It's a weird mix of really forward-leaning and then really limited,
I mean, the idea was great if you're going to sell this thing for $199 and then, eventually there'll be a sale somewhere and it'll be $99 for the old one. You could buy a whole lot of these for schools, for anything.
I like the idea that you can get one that has 3G and it's kind of, it's pretty inexpensive.
And it's like 100 megs you get for free, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, you need a connection because they still don't really have a pervasive offline story for this thing.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem. It's just a huge problem.
Well, the Google beta mentality. Let's just release something that's not complete yet.
This is the ultimate example of, when you make a hammer, everything's a nail. And, Google makes online services. So obviously their computer is a web browser, like anyone, no one was asking for this. I think when you look at, Google's OS story, they have two kind of bad choices, but honestly, they should be going with Android as their OS, and Chrome should be the browser on Android. And I don't understand. This thing would be a lot more interesting if it was Android.
Well, I think the idea was that the project, the Chromium project, I believe it started at around the same time as Android. The initial project.
But that's a reason for Google. It's not, it doesn't excuse it for the people who want to buy the thing.
So my theory is nice, but my theory is they said, well, we have this and we have that. Let's try them both.
No.
And obviously Android has become...
The future of this stuff is the same thing as it is on the iOS side. You know, it's going to be an Ultrabook type design where the components are behind the screen, and Apple's going to call that an iPod. These guys are going to call it whatever they call it, but it's going to be running Android. This is... The only thing I have to say about this is that basing all of your stuff on Chrome for whatever reason, I can't even imagine who could do that, but it's not going to obsolete anything because ultimately the device of the future will always be able to do more. So you could upgrade to a Windows computer, run Chrome on it, and get all the benefits of this thing plus whatever Windows gives you. Or you could move to Android, which will also have Chrome as the browser and do the same thing. So I guess the only saving grace here is if you can get into this cheaply enough and it makes sense to you, and I can't imagine who this would make sense for, but if it does, you know, they're not.
You know who this makes sense for, and I'll tell you what.
Dead ends like WebOS, I guess.
I'll tell you who this makes sense for. Let's say your company, let's say you're a New York City, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. You could have Chromium in every cab. You could have the Chrome OS in the back of a cab in every cab. You could have, if you're
for what though? Like why is Chromium in a cab? What's the point of that?
You know how they have the stupid TVs?
Yeah.
You could have that. You could just pop that on.
But right away, the first thing I think of is, wouldn't Android still be better for that?
Yeah.
Because you can touch it. And those things are touch interfaces.
Yeah. And you can't touch.
Plus, they don't have to be connected to work. You know, the way those systems, I mean, obviously those things are connected to something. There's like a satellite TV thing happening. I don't know what they do exactly, but they're playing some kind of a video and you can turn it off or whatever. You can pay through this thing. I think it's integrated, I believe. You know, that type of thing would make more sense in Android than in Chrome.
No, I guess you're right in that sense. Yeah. I'm just coming up with some sort of business situation where this makes sense. Where they could say, look, we have 8 million, you know.
You almost have to invent a scenario. It's like there's some business of some kind. They do something. It doesn't matter what it is.
That it makes sense in.
Those businesses need to have email, which this does. They need to be, you know, their workers need to browse the web because maybe they hit like some kind of a web app or series of web apps. And if all of their custom apps or all of the things they need to do to get work done are available on the web, great, you know. I've noticed with you, just using this, you know, you have this document in Google Apps. There are some interesting benefits to this co-editing thing you can do and you know, the collaborative nature of that kind of a document. That's kind of cool. And so you do get that in Chrome and on the Chromebook. But you have to be online. Now, I know that's going to change, but it's been a year. It's been 6 months, I guess, since the original release.
Yeah, but a year since the announcement.
And you would have thought that between announcing it and then actually releasing the product, that Google would never allow this thing to come to market without having Gmail, Calendar, Docs, whatever, all available in offline modes. And they didn't. This thing shipped without any of that happening. And that's insane. It's like, you know, here's Windows 8. You know, all the like a calculator and notepad, they'll be coming in a few months, maybe. You know, you don't
it's
do
a standard
that.
Thing,
that's crazy. It's Google. I mean, you just can't do that to people. You know, you talked about the engineer mentality, and that's fine for engineers, but you know, this company needs to embrace the fact that its user base are just people, and they look at this thing and they don't get it. I don't get it.
No, I don't think I see no reason to have it, especially at that price point. But maybe at $199, you could see somebody justifying getting this over a $200 Windows.
I don't know. I'd rather, honestly, I'd like to have that exact form factor, but running Windows 7. I would much rather have that, right? It can have that same limited amount of storage space after everything's said and done. I'd still rather have Windows on it. Because sometimes you just want to download pictures from a camera and then put them up on the web or something. Get them off the phone, you know, that kind of thing. Or whatever. There's all these scenarios that just don't work direct to web yet.
The reason why this is a story now is because they have slashed the prices. And normally people wouldn't care, but this is coming around the same time that the Logitech review the Google TV box just slashed their prices from $249 to $99, then stated that it was the biggest mistake and Google has no idea what they're doing, Logitech claimed.
It's funny you mentioned that.
So I don't know if this is another product that did not do well, and this is Google's idea of, let's just slash the price.
Well, so I would say, unless something changes dramatically, Google TV is not necessarily central to Google's to Google's point of being, right? Google is an engineer-driven technology company. I mean, obviously, consumer market is a big market.
They could put out 100 Google TVs and fail, and they'll still be doing quite
who
well.
Cares? The thought did occur to me with regards to Google TV, though, that it doesn't make sense. No one is ever going to walk into a store and say, I want a Google TV. But I could picture someone walking into a store and buying a high-end Sony TV or a Sony Blu-ray player, and then discovering, oh, by the way, Google TV is a feature of this thing that you already wanted. And, oh, that's a nice extra thing. And then maybe it is okay to have. I talked about my Vizio TV, and it has some Yahoo widgets on it, including Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and some other things. And actually, we find that stuff pretty useful. I did not buy the TV because that was on there. But I fully expected to ignore it. But, it's pretty good. And so I just saw an ad. It must have been for the Sunday Best Buy circular or something, where the Sony DVD player, the Sony Blu-ray player that has that Google TV stuff in it was on sale for some, fairly reasonable price. And I thought, that's a good way to get Google TV out into the world, because no one's going to buy it because Google TV's on there. But the notion of an internet-connected Blu-ray player actually makes sense, because Blu-ray discs do have some advantages when you are connected to the internet. And then people may actually discover this additional interface. And now that it's pretty good, they may kind of like it, Yeah,
you're gonna get the brand out there,
right? But the problem with the Chromebook thing is, when you open up a notebook computer, you expect the thing to be a computer.
And
it doesn't matter how cheap it is. Even the cheapest netbook gives you Microsoft Word if you want it. I mean, this thing is, my kids borrowed one of these on a flight to San Francisco. They had the Google guys in the terminal, and I remember the confusion with my daughter where she's like, so. Wait, I can't use this thing until the Wi-Fi gets turned on? I don't understand. So they had Wi-Fi on the plane and they could use it, but they could use it at a certain time, but they couldn't use it just,
Do you remember those internet-only cheap computers that they released in the late 90s?
No, you don't mean the ones that had the ad, like the banner ads on the desktop and stuff.
No, it was like a one piece. It was like a screen and everything was on there.
Oh yeah. Of course.
What was the name of that thing?
Yeah, Sony made one.
I don't think this was.
That was pretty cool looking.
This was a really cheap computer. It was like $199. Yeah. It was $199, and it was an internet-only device.
Yep.
I forgot the name of it. I don't even know if it had storage.
I'm trying to think of the name of that Sony one, because there's pictures of it on my site somewhere.
Ah, man, I forgot what it was, but it's almost like that idea. Like, there's no OS, it's just a browser, and that's what you do.
I'm trying to see if it's in there anywhere. I can't,
Yeah, now I'm going to look for it. Internet only.
The Sony one was really cool looking. That I do remember. It shouldn't surprise anyone to discover that Sony has been failing magnificently over the past decade. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Wait. Internet.
I'm trying to find it too. I can't find it.
The Sony. Hold on. It's in here somewhere. I will find this. It's going to be at some ancient.
I know. I can't. I forgot.
Here's an article I wrote in 1999 where I'm complaining about Sony's pervasive use of memory stick technology.
Who needs those stupid things?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I can't find this thing.
Okay, yeah.
Because we did a whole thing about it, and what was it called? No, not the navigator room. That's the media controller.
I am gonna find this. God, this is like.
It's gonna drive both of us crazy now. But there was this device. It was a computer, and it was a internet-only computer for like $199. And the selling point of this device was you don't need all that crazy computer stuff. You could use this in your kitchen. And it was a video of somebody having this like propped up in their kitchen. And I was thinking, what's interesting? How many homes have an Ethernet jack in their kitchen?
Right. Not many.
In 1999, and B, you're going to have to spend at that time $100 to find a 50-foot Ethernet cable.
Yeah, 1999. I mean, that could have been 14.4 modem for all we know.
Yeah, and I don't know if it had a modem. I think it was just Ethernet. It was just like broadband.
My parents had a web TV for a while, and they would connect with a modem, and they would, they'd get online, and they would check their mail on their TV, and it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. But for a little while, that was kind of a thing. Like,
well, isn't that what Google TV is now?
It is almost exactly what Google TV is, actually. Yeah.
You check your mail. You could check your mail on that thing.
No, of course. Right.
You can do all that stupid stuff on there. But God, now I need to know what the name was. But I do want to talk about, since Black Friday is coming up. Paul,
yes.
do you get involved in Black Friday? Do you do all that stuff?
A friend of mine was just asking me about this because we have kind of a history of going to these Black Friday events. I've actually gotten up at 3 o'clock in the morning, gone to a Best Buy, waited in line, hung out with people, walked into the store, and then never bought anything. I actually just kind of enjoy it from this is like going to Disney World kind of experience. Yeah. In fact, I would have to say more often than not, I've gotten up for Black Friday and not bought something, more than the opposite, right? So yeah, I do sort of do that. I don't know if I'm going to do it this year. I don't really like crowds or people, frankly.
I don't see anything, but it seems like in the last couple of years, it was a much bigger deal, and you would see the prices out already, and you would know what's out there, and you would pretty much know what to buy.
Yeah,
but now
it's getting ruined.
There's nothing.
Every day's Black Friday this week.
Every day's Black. Thursday's Black Thursday, and then there's Black Friday, and then there's Cyber Monday, then Black Friday weekend.
I was just commenting to my wife that any company that sells anything is trying to take advantage of the notion of Black Friday, although they have sales every day, And the weirdest one I got today was from Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
What's the Black Friday deal for them?
Yeah, so they're selling cars. I guess rental cars sell their cars because what you want is the vehicle that people have beaten the crap out of that no one cared about.
Yeah, with 300,000 miles. It's a 2009 exactly. With 300,000 miles. He's traveled around the world. They're having
a Black Friday sale. So their Black Friday sale is you can trade in a car for one of their cars and you'll get the Kelley Blue Book value plus $750, no matter what your car is like.
Oh my God.
And I'm just thinking,
that's absurd.
This has gotten out of control. Like, what is this?
Apple has a Black Friday sale too. 5 to 10% off.
Yeah.
Apple
never has sales, so that's actually pretty good.
Well, that's actually the price that anybody could walk in and get. Everybody could pretty much get 10% off on their purchase at Apple.
Sure.
But I haven't really seen any big deals. I know last year was all TVs, but this year I haven't really seen anything.
Yeah, I mean, Lenovo's having a sale. I think it's 15% off of everything, and you can have stackable coupons, which is actually pretty good. But they don't have any, their new machines are all announced in January, so, whatever.
They're liquidating.
Yeah. Amazon's going to do their thing. Newegg has got thing. And Amazon and Newegg both. I think Amazon starting on Thanksgiving Day is going to have sales every single day for a week or 10 days or whatever it is. And that's one of those things, if you have a Kindle with special offers, it will show you the deal every day on the screen.
Yeah, because I'm building a computer for somebody on the network, and everything is from Newegg. And right now I'm at around, it's getting up there. So I was thinking maybe
wait till Friday, you never know.
Maybe I'll get like a free tablet if I spend X amount of dollars.
I mean, it's such a weird thing. Like, there's part of me that thinks you should have to physically go to someplace to get an awesome deal. I mean, how lazy is it to just, I will click on a hyperlink on Friday instead of today to save some money. But I guess whatever gets people buying, right, is the theory. And
well, Newegg now, what's interesting? Newegg sells like normal stuff. Like jewelry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'll sell like watches and jewelry and clothing and
like, right. So even as if I needed less of a reason to leave the house.
Yeah, and I'm like, why is Newegg selling this stuff?
Maybe they feel like they need to compete with Amazon.
Yeah, but nobody can. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, there's always room for more than one place, right? I mean, I don't think they'll ever become the next Amazon, but they could be to Amazon as Burger King is to McDonald's or whatever, or at least Arby's, whatever, something. I don't know. Chick-fil-A, perhaps.
But it is a big deal for many people, and they go crazy and they go wait online, and I think you're right. Many people go on wait online and they don't buy anything. They're like,
this is the modern version of stress. It's like the server's not responding. Get me another cup of coffee.
And then you just nothing happens.
Yeah.
But I do know many people that have gone, and I forgot who it was a couple of years ago. They went to go get a game, and they ended up waiting there for a couple hours. They went online, and the guy got so fed up, he just dropped everything. He's like, I'm not waiting anymore. I'll pay the extra $20.
I actually kind of respect that.
I can't do it, Paul. I really can't. I can't. Well, I don't understand like the craziness behind it and getting it then. And I know you're saving like $50, but you're going to spend about 4 hours.
Yeah. No, like I said, I only do it because it's like a spectator sport. It's my version of, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or something. I don't, and I mean that in the sense that I don't care if I lose out on the $50 DVD home entertainment system or whatever it is. I don't have to get that thing. I sometimes, you stand in line and there are people who have been there for a couple of days maybe, or since midnight or whatever, and then they walk around at Best Buy and they give out the little pieces of paper that so people know whether you are or are not going to get a certain item, right? They have like a limited range of these things.
Oh, they'll tell you.
Yeah, so the first couple of guys in line will get the laptop for $300 or whatever it is. And I always think to myself, I guess that's worth it, right? I mean, these things can be expensive items. You're saving, in some cases, several $100s. You're there for some amount of time. I mean, is it worth a day of your life to do that kind of thing? I mean, yeah, I think for some people it really is. So,
but we also don't have
I'm
that.
Okay with that.
We also don't have that one item that for Christmas. We don't have that Christmas item this year.
Yeah.
Like that, we don't have the Nintendo Wii. We don't have the PS3 that we've had in previous years. I think that's going to drastically affect how Christmas works this year and how people how people
That's an
are
interesting
buying.
point. I mean, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was a huge deal, and will be a huge deal for the whole holiday season. But let's face it, they sold like several million copies of this thing already. Anyone who's serious about this game got it. So it's not like people are, people certainly are going to give it for Christmas. I mean, to the tune of millions of units. But I mean, it's still not. We're not waiting for Christmas to play Call of Duty.
Yeah, but I'm talking even let's say non-tech. Let's say like the Tickle Me Elmos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The Furbies that doesn't exist this year and I found that really weird. That it just I guess it's a sign of the economy and how people just don't care.
I find it odd that you think that there's a world outside of technology, but okay. So assuming
that's
what you're
what I've
saying
heard. That's what I've heard. I've never seen it, to be honest.
My daughter just bought something that I thought is so old school and insane. I'm not going to get the name right, but it's like it's a hook and latch kind of thing where you pull yarn through a mesh and you make a picture.
Yeah,
does that sound familiar? It's like a rug, basically.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is the type of thing my wife would have done as a child herself. And here we are. This kid has access to iPads and iPods and Apple TV and has her own netbook computer. I have a Kindle Fire. She can use it anytime. And she's pulling yarn through a mesh to make a picture of a kitten. And that's neat. I mean, but I also think it's, in some ways, it's probably pretty atypical, isn't it? With kids today. My son descends into his...
Your son wants to blow stuff up.
Yeah, and he does. He goes down into his little boy cave there. And
yeah, just...
We're a little worried. We don't know what's going on down there exactly, but we know it's probably illegal.
I don't... I don't think we're going to see a big, crazy turnout this year. I just don't feel that people have the money or care.
I don't know.
Considering every day is Black Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. Although this weekend, my wife and I went out to lunch and we kind of looked over the Christmas list, and I said, what the heck? Let's swing by Best Buy. It's on the way home. It was on a Sunday. It was Sunday too, not Saturday. And we drove through the parking lot and kept going. I couldn't believe how packed it was there. So, every day I get up and I read the paper and I find out how terrible the economy is and how we're never going to recover. And then you drive around here and the malls are packed. So
they're packed, but are they buying anything?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the question. Because I worked in retail for many years. My background is retail, and man, I guess I can say when I worked at the Gap for about 7 years, and it's just the corporate thing that they beat into your head is just phenomenal because you're terrified to go to the bathroom. But like they would be upset if they were under. Let's say they were going to make $34,000 that day in one store. If they made 33, they were mortified. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. I'm wondering now what's the mentality like, because I'm sure still a lot of people coming in, they're just not buying the stuff. They're just walking around like zombies.
Years and years ago, before Ireland went through their economic boom time, and then, of course, have since fallen back down to earth. This was one of the poorest countries in Europe, in Western Europe, and we drove into a little town, and there was no obvious restaurant. We went into a bar and asked if they had food. They're like, yeah, we can make this or whatever. And they're like, okay, let's just keep going. And then the woman actually chased us out the door, and she said, I could make, this or whatever. Like, no, that's okay. Well, I have steak. I have soup. Do you like soup? And she kind of begged our way back in, and then we proceeded to have like the greatest meal we've probably ever had in our lives.
So
it was
funny.
fantastic. And maybe that's where retail is heading, right? Like you actually have people waiting by the door to make sure no one leaves without buying something. What could I do to get you into this iPod?
What can I get you? Now, I'm looking at Best Buy's circular right now for Black Friday, and they actually, one of the deals, it's $199 for a 42-inch sharp TV. 1080p.
I mean, that's awesome.
That's a great deal.
Just as a thing to watch, to play video games. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
but I mean, for people in an apartment or students or...
Now, it's only in store, and it's valid. The offer is valid from Thursday to Saturday.
Thursday to Saturday.
Yeah, so it's valid for 2 days.
Are they actually open on Thursday?
Yeah, midnight.
Oh,
No. The offer is valid Thursday, November 24th to Saturday. So maybe they open like 10 o'clock on Thursday.
Oh, that's what we need to do is just pull people away from their families on Thanksgiving.
My entire family, my wife's side, did that one Thanksgiving. We ate, and then all of a sudden, like 9 o'clock, they all got ready and they went. And guess what my wife bought?
She went shopping.
They went shopping. They just took off.
I have on Christmas Day done the thing where you go to the movies.
Have you?
There's two awesome things you can do on Christmas Day that are not Christmas related. One is to fly, because nobody does. And the other one is to go to a movie. And also, almost nobody does. People actually do go to movies. But it's kind of a neat thing to do, Because you sort of look at Christmas as like this big deal. It's going to take the whole day. But then after a while, you're like, all right, so who wants to go to a movie? Or in my case, I'd be like, who wants to fly to Quebec or something?
Yeah, I'll do that. You could get the Asus Transformer. It's that tablet that becomes a computer.
Yes.
For $249, that's on sale. And then they have a bunch of laptops for $299. I mean, they're not...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Yes. I mean, there are going to be people that are going to buy every one of those things. I think that's great for them.
I think you could sell anything on this day. I remember CVS in last year in the circuit had a Sylvania. I think that's the brand.
That's awesome.
The lighting company, the one that makes light bulbs, they had a computer that was running like Windows 95. Like I don't even think it was XP. I don't think it was running XP.
You can go into CVS today and find
Windows CE
tablet-looking things.
No, Windows CE. That's what it was. It was a netbook. It's running Windows CE, and it was $99. And the line out the door
to get this
stupid thing, and the store had like 5 of them, and I could not understand why people are waiting online to get this stupid thing that's useless. I mean, the thing is just useless.
I am thrilled at the notion of people waiting in line to buy a Windows CE device. I think that's beautiful.
And there was only 5. It was a whole thing.
There should only be 5, yeah.
I'm looking here. A couple cameras. Look at this 52-inch Samsung flat screen. Very nice, actually. $1,000.
Sure.
I mean, you'll get a couple of these deals, but...
No, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, for the people who have the incentive and want to go and do that, great. I mean, good for them. I think it's great. I'm not that person. I'm not going to do that. I mean, somebody wrote me an email. I don't quite understand what this was all about. In fact, I don't think I'll be able to find it quickly. But somebody wrote me and said, let me see if I can just find this. It was one of those, what do you want to do? What do you want for Christmas kind of things? And, we're polling people in the tech industry or blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I can find it quickly. But so I wrote the guy back and I said, I went and looked at what people wrote last year. And I said, I don't understand why I qualify for this or whatever, but I don't really want anything for Christmas. I have everything I need. I have more than I need. I'm surrounded by stuff.
You mean to tell me you don't want a 32-inch TV for $99?
That's not the point. I don't need it. You know, like I just don't. I need to give stuff away. You know, I think, and unfortunately, maybe I'm a little atypical, but I think it's maybe more typical just to say, of Americans. You know, like we have stuff.
Well, we buy stuff because we think like, oh my God, look at that deal. I'll never find that again. Do you need it? No, but it's $300. How could I say no to it?
I think saying no is important sometimes too. But like I said, there are people who do. Maybe need is not the right word, but there are people who could use that thing. You know, hopefully the guy who gets the deal on the 32-inch computer TV screen or whatever doesn't already have 8 TV screens in his house. You know, maybe this is like, oh my God, I actually got a good deal, and now this is my TV. I can replace that tube piece of junk that's been in my house for the past 18 years. It's never going to break. Yeah, they used to actually make things properly, you know. I'm
looking at one of the greatest things ever, and this is such the Best Buy mentality. An accessory bundle, Paul. 8-inch HDMI cable, 8-outlet surge protector, HD TV screen cleaner. How much do you think this is?
$9.99.
$149.97.
Wait, what?
With a $50, that's with the $50 discount.
100? You mean 149?
$149.
Wait, say that again.
The HDMI cable, the surge protector,
cable, which is worth about $2. Yeah.
The surge protector.
How much could? Okay, even the nicest surge protector on earth, $60.
And the HD TV screen cleaning kit.
Okay, which they should just give you for free because that's ridiculous.
$149. Reduced from the $200 price that it originally is.
You know, this is like when you go to a store and they have a paper bag that's full of components, and they're like, "You can have this for $10, but we're not going to guarantee there's anything useful in here."
Yeah.
You know, except at least that thing is priced correctly.
So then they have other kits, accessory kits. So they have like a lower end one for $99, and then just a no-name one for $49.95. I mean, anybody could go and get a surge protector for $4. It's unreal.
Wow. And you know,
I guess
the best part of this is people are going to fight each other.
Oh, for that stupid surge protector. Yeah. But that's how they're making up the price. They're cutting $100 from the price, and then they're giving you $150 for a stupid device. And then they're going to sell you the insurance. That's where they're going to make the money. They're going to spend. You're going to buy
a running joke here about things that, you know, when you save money, like if you save enough money, it's like it pays for itself. You know?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
No, but it doesn't ever really. It's just a joke, you know. But my father-in-law has this fake tree, and his fake Christmas tree, and he carts it out. And he feels like if he uses it enough years, that it will pay for itself, which makes no sense at all. Which is why that's so excellent.
I know a lot of people like that. Like, well, if we buy it now and we use it for the next 10 years, it's going to come out to like $100 a year. Yeah, but you still spend $100 a year on this device, on this thing that you normally.
Wait, what is this thing? Like, what do you need this? What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
Now I'm surrounded by stuff I don't need, so I'm being.
You know, that mentality does not exist anymore. Like, it'll pay for itself. I know it exists, but it doesn't make sense. Like, I know people used to spend $3,000 and buy a bedroom set, but this would be their bedroom set. They would have this bedroom set for the next 20 years. Okay, so you buy something a little better.
I can tell you that the bedroom set that I have, we've had for 15 years at least, you know.
But people did this. But now what people do, they're like, well, you know what I'll do? I'll go to IKEA and I'll spend $300 on this bedroom set, and I'm just throwing out a price.
Yeah, on a fake wood erector set.
Yeah, whatever it is. You know, it's like it's not even any kind of pressed wood. It's this foreign thing that they put together.
Yeah,
the Malma.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're gonna spend money on it, and you're like, but you know what I could do? I could buy a new bedroom set every year.
Okay, so I've succumbed to this. I mean, we bought an expensive HD TV a couple of years back, or probably 4 or 5 years back, whatever it was. This thing breaks. We look it up online. It's out of warranty. It's a common problem, that kind of TV, yada, yada, yada. So we buy this cheap Vizio thing, $800, $900. And I said to my wife, you know, this thing, we bought it at Costco so we can return it forever, and they'll fix it and whatnot. And if a couple of years down the road, if this thing breaks, which it will, because, you know, it's not a high quality piece
Sure.
of machinery, we'll just replace it. And that's the society we live in. We go into this knowing that this thing is not going to last. If we could just get that 2, maybe 3 years out of it, that's a reasonable amount to pay for that amount of usage, and we'll go on to the next one.
Yeah,
rather than spending $1,800 on a really nice one, which is probably also not going to last.
And then you got to get the warranty. Because now you're like, well, I just invested $1,800.
Now you're worried about it, right? And then you start making dumb decisions like, well, I don't normally spend the extra money at Best Buy, but, I better do it because we just spent all this money on this thing, and, you don't want anything to happen to it.
Yeah, it is interesting. So what do you think is going to be the big seller this year? I mean, any guess on what it could possibly be?
Now, I could tell you looking at our own, there's been an interesting change with gift giving because you can see this in any supermarket or a CVS type store. Best Buy has this as well, where there's a huge rack now of gift cards that are specific to chain stores, and things like iTunes and Apple and Xbox points and Microsoft points and all this kind of stuff. And I have to say, we are probably going to be giving a lot of those. I guess those are the modern equivalent of gift certificates, right? And so we have certain restaurants that we happen to like. We'll give gift certificates for those. But then a lot of this stuff, you get into the situation where you really can't buy an adequate present for a younger person, especially. What am I going to do? Like walk in and buy a CD for someone? They probably don't even have a way to play a CD, let alone they wouldn't understand my taste in music. So, give them an iTunes gift certificate or an Amazon gift certificate or whatever.
Yeah.
I think those, I don't think like that's the runaway, big hit of the year, but I think that from like a volume standpoint, I think those are going to be very popular, and that's why there are so many of them. Because, we have, people like, like a babysitter who went away to college, and we know from talking to her mother that there's a Walmart nearby, and Walmart has everything. And I may not like Walmart, but she's a college student. So you give her this thing, and this is something she can really use to go buy whatever she wants, whatever she needs, some emergency might happen or whatever, and it's going to be there, and I just think things like that are just very pragmatic. So, and it gets you away from that uncomfortable issue where you give someone something they don't want or whatever.
I guess, the Kindle Fire could possibly be the big seller of the season.
Well, okay, so I don't think the Kindle Fire is going to outsell the iPad, but I think they're going to sell several million of them. I think it's going to be a big deal, and I think it's going to be the price. I think,
and many of them are going to take away from the iPad. Many of these sales.
Yeah, because there are people who would have overspent on an iPad and gotten more than they needed.
Yeah.
And then, and this actually answers the need, if you will, or the want for this kind of device. This is an inexpensive and I would say safe way to get into a tablet because, it's Amazon, and they're going to do it right, and they're going to support it, and they're going to have more stuff coming down the pike and all that kind of stuff. I wish it was expandable, like I said, but I think for a lot of people,
I think the biggest problem for Apple is going to be not that people are going to say, wow, this is such a better device, I'm going to buy this. But there are people that are going in there thinking an iPad is just a tablet, just like how the iPod is every MP3 player. So they're going to be like, oh, what's the difference? I'm just going to get an iPad, and they're going to go and buy this thing. It
adds up so quick. That's the thing. When I think about an iPad today for myself, if I was going to buy an iPad, I'd want to get one with at least 32 gigs of RAM. Storage, and I would want to get one with 3G, and all of a sudden you're talking $730, $730 for what? A thing I'm going to watch movies on the plane with? I mean, come on. And then and by the way, it's a beautiful, beautiful device. You have to protect it with something, so you're going to want to get a case. And that Apple case isn't enough because it only protects the front. So then and you get into this thing. All of a sudden, you just spend $1,000 on this thing you don't even need. And it's just this is the kind of buying mentality of a lot of people. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people really will use this thing as a computer replacement and all that stuff, and they've just gotten rid of the complexity of a computer, and God bless them. But they're expensive, and I think people keep forgetting how expensive that is. It's a lot of money.
I want to be that person that buys an iPad, in the worst way, and they say, "Wow, this is the greatest computer ever," and I'm perfectly happy with it. And I never think about using a computer.
Please, I'd love to be like that. But even my wife has noticed, she was getting her hair done, and people were talking about these tablets, and none of them had even heard of the Kindle Fire. And this one woman was going on and on and on about how wonderful the iPad was. She couldn't stop talking about it. And my wife didn't say this to her, but it finally occurred to her this woman is just, all she's doing is justifying her purchase. She spent all this money on this thing, and now she's trying to make herself out to look like a genius. Yeah. Like, see, like
I could get my email.
I made a good decision, didn't I? It's like nobody asked you. I why did you just mention that up front?
But I could get my email on this thing, Paul.
Neat. Wow, that's something. You could never do that on a mobile device.
I bought this just for convenience. I bought it because it sits next to my bed. Mm-hmm. And if I want to go and I want to read the news, I just use this device and I read the news. And I know it's a totally obnoxious device, and that's all I use it. It's either in my bedroom or on my in my living room.
My pet peeve with the iPad is when you go to an industry event and you're in the press room or you're in a group of journalists, whatever. And most people will pop out some kind of a laptop computer because we're normal and we have to write. There is an interesting mix of Macs and PCs, and it will vary depending on what the audience is or what the show is or whatever it is. But that's obviously what all that you will ever see. But now, in a crowd of 100 journalists, there'll always be the one guy with the iPad. And he doesn't use an iPad. He first takes out the iPad, and then he takes out the dock, and then he puts the iPad in the dock. Then he takes out the Bluetooth keyboard.
And then a trackpad.
And then it's like this whole production, and it's like, wow, not only did you not save any money, but you've got this like ponderous collection of crap that you have to like cart around with you. And it's like, is this really better? I mean,
I don't know. I've seen someone the same exact thing, but not with an iPad, with just like a Android tablet with the Toshiba. And they were saying how great this thing is because you could have a keyboard with it. And I'm thinking, you spent $500 on something that's not even the iPad, and you went and got.
Congratulations! You're a whole new kind of dumb.
I got how much was a keyboard to go $100, and I'm like, so you spent $700 on this device. That's not even the iPad. It's just a bad tablet.
I'll just throw out the notion that if you're going to travel with a keyboard in a bag, you're going to want to take the batteries out probably because that thing could be things will be hitting the buttons, which will engage the battery, and it will start looking for a device. And I've done this already with the Windows 8 tablet, where you put it in a bag and you get somewhere and the batteries are dead because it's been in the bag trying to register with a device. Maybe you need a case for that.
Just go buy a laptop. Just go buy a laptop.
Exactly. Laptop's self-contained. It's just the thought.
But with those Ultrabooks that are coming out and they're going to become popular, and I think that everything is going to become an Ultrabook at this point. I mean, we're going to see with Apple right now. In the coming months, we're going to see them, in my opinion, kind of eliminate all of them and just have the Air as the ultimate platform for them.
The nice thing for Apple is that the PC makers are clearly going to catch up from a form factor perspective, and they're coming out with these, 13, 14-inch displays, basically 11.6,
Which HP is leading the way with the displays.
Yeah, but I think Apple's going to do a really good job moving their MacBook Pros, the big ones, to this thinner form factor. And you're going to see these amazing sheets of really thin material where it opens up with this gigantic screen. And I think they'll always be kind of a step ahead with that stuff, and I think that will benefit them. And I'm personally very eager to see a 15-inch version of the MacBook Air. How awesome!
But we already have it. Here's a funny thing: you could get a MacBook Air with an i7.
No, but I want the bigger screen.
You want the bigger screen? See, I'm fine with 13.
Yeah, no, I want a 15-inch screen.
I have a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and I'm perfectly fine with a 13 because I have giant displays all around me. But it already kind of exists. You could get an i7 Air. Yeah. It's not the fastest i7, but you can get an i7 Air. So,
but again, it's expensive. But so that top of the line MacBook Air 13 is expensive. And it's just. I think the nice thing about the PC end of it is, for that size machine, you're going to have such a range of devices. They're going to be 800 to 1200 to 1500 or whatever. They're not going to be
next to 1500,
1200 to 15 or whatever. Yeah,
I hope to see it soon.
I do too.
That'll really give it a refresh. Everything will get a refresh.
Yep. Because next year is going to be very interesting. People have asked me why I haven't reviewed any Ultrabooks. Frankly, I'm just waiting for these Ivy Bridge ones. I don't think right now, these are the early ones. So hold on, it's going to get better.
So Ivy Bridge is debuting or it's coming out in January?
I thought it was both. I thought January CS was it. I thought that was the launch. But, those things do have a way of fading out a little bit, right? So I know with Lenovo in the past, their new machines are always based around the new Intel chipsets. Some of them will, be February 1, some will be March 1, so it may be one of those rolling release things where maybe there's a basic version out first and then they fill out the line as they go.
Yeah, I mean, these are tiny chipsets. You're talking about a 22 nanometer chipset.
Yeah, and that's
tiny.
exactly why it's important for these devices. Yeah. It's going to enable very, very thin Ultrabooks.
Yeah.
There's some decent ones right now. The Asus one looks okay.
But they're running, I think they're running, I think they're 32 nanometer Sandy Bridge chipset.
Once you get that thinner, lighter, better battery life kind of chip going, it's going to be even better. So, and of course, Apple will take advantage of it too.
I'm looking here when they're saying it's going to hit retailers March.
March, okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, okay. So at the very least, they'll announce it in January.
They'll announce
whatever.
it.
I can wait. I mean, I bought a new computer at the beginning of the year. I don't really need anything. So, like I said, I'm swimming in technology. It's like
but
I gotta get a new computer.
It's not from Intel. It's not from Intel.
What is it from Intel?
The information I'm getting. So one is saying March and one was saying third quarter. It was projected to be ready for shipment in the third quarter 2011, and it did not. With retail availability will begin March 2012.
I can only barely remember this, but didn't Intel have an issue this year delivering Sandy Bridge? Wasn't there a last minute, oh my God, we made a mistake, we got to fix this?
Well, Sandy Bridge was all screwed up, but I think it had to do with the video aspect of Sandy Bridge.
Okay, I don't remember, but I seem to remember it held up machines for some number of months this year.
Okay, so I'm looking here. The current the socket chipset that they just released is the LGA 2011, which is their new Sandy Bridge chips. I think the 6 cores.
Okay.
And those are 435.
i7 only, is that what that is?
Yeah, 435 millimeters. The new ones that are going to be coming out, the Ivory Bridge chipsets that are coming out, are going to be 172 millimeters. But that's not a fair comparison either. All right, so this is all screwed up. They're playing a numbers game here. They're flipping the numbers and they're not comparing it to the right size chips. This is one's a 6 core and one is a 4 core. So Intel likes to play this game.
I think that let me see. I mean, there's all kinds of stories, so it's hard to know what's going on. But according to one thing that dates from October of this year, production on those chips has in fact already started, which would suggest
shipment first quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking here. i7. Yeah. So we're not getting any information on this from this page. All right, so that was...
Well, they're going to announce it at CES one way or the other.
One way or the other. Okay, so it'll be out. But it'll be interesting to see what that does, because Intel kind of fell apart in the mobile game.
That's for sure.
Kind is not the word. They did fall apart in the mobile game.
Yep. I think they're going to be right there. I really do think that by the time Windows 8 ships, that the choice between ARM and Intel is going to be... a little more clear-cut than people think.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. All right, Paul. I appreciate it. Go to our website, guysfromqueens.com. Also go to gfqlive.tv. I encourage everybody to check out Paul's website, winsupersite.com. I believe the latest one is on the Kindle, right?
The latest article? The latest like featured article.
Yeah, it's the Kindle, which I read. And then, you put out 2 more today. Look at you.
I'm a busy guy.
You don't have a show this Thursday because it's Thanksgiving.
That's true. Although, actually, I think I have one tomorrow.
Do you?
I think I'm doing Tech News Today tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
I think.
Very nice.
Look into that. Yeah, I got to make sure.
I might be doing it.
Well, I agreed to do it. I believe it's tomorrow.
Okay. Excellent. So Tech News Today, tomorrow, I believe 4 or 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock.
I don't know.
Let's just throw out numbers.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure if you follow Paul, you'll find out when he's on. And I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week on What the Tech.